Welcome, my name is Michael Beal, and today we're going to introduce a new series called Tactical Analysis. So in this series, we're going to really look into tools and methods on how we can actually perform those tactical tasks that really need to get us all the way through those kappa events, root cause events, and get us to a known place. So because these kinds of efforts are done on the moment, we kind of refer to those as tactical. And at Tallgrass, everything we do in a tactical mindset, what we want to do is put in processes to graduate these situations into a strategic footing. But before you can get to footing, and once you're in footing, a strategic footing, you're always going to need to fall back on the ability to do tactical analysis. So before we kind of dive into the tool that we're going to showcase today called Business IQ, let's talk a little bit about where this tool lives, right, and how it benefits the user and how from where it's architected. So BIQ or Business IQ is what we would consider an edge technology. Edge meaning that it's not in the cloud. Okay, so in other words, this is more of the classic application for those of us that have been around for a decade plus. This is simply how we used to do business. Everything was on the edge. All of the things that all the efforts that we performed was on local data, whereas now a lot of the processes are actually being pushed up into the cloud, and that includes the compute engine, right? All of the expensive computation. So with expensive computation and by kind of losing control of the great ecology of our data, it really puts tactical analysis back a little bit. So what this does is it reinstates and acknowledges, right, that it's actually best to leave the person who is actually going to be performing the analysis close to a powerful technology that can then also leverage the local data. Okay, so that's essentially what Business IQ does. So that's basically edge, right? In other words, it's at the edge of the infrastructure, but not in the cloud. Some can even say there is a hybrid model to be had here as well, and we'll explore some of that later. So why do we want this? Because it really gives a selfish view and capability to the person with all of that business knowledge to evaluate and to solve problems independently. It also does something that is very, 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 very important, is it keeps the price of the question in check, right? So if you have a fixed cost with all of the data and fixed cost technology, and all those things are localized to the person who not only is seeking the question, but they can control the environment. They can control the reality that they're having to build to solve that problem. So what that means is the cost of the question is actually extremely low, whereas you take an enterprise initiative that's pushed up into the cloud. Now it's almost, I hate to say an act of Congress, but it is a bureaucracy to tap into those resources, to spend the money, the additional money, to use the compute engines and calculate those questions. So Edge keeps things local to the user, keeps the user in charge, and with Business IQ allows an amazing scalability of typically things that users simply can't do, right? So let's go ahead and actually dive into the tool a little bit and really kind of showcase how it's architected, how it's modularized. You know, how does a user graduate from, let's say, Excel, right? We have every company has all of their Excel power users. All of those folks are disparate though in how they create models, how they really come to a root cause analysis, you know, the results itself. So what Business IQ does is it actually standardize all of those what other would be kind of like a subjective manner in how people evaluate data in Excel models. And most importantly, Excel models are not really reproducible. That's not what Excel was designed for. It's a spreadsheet technology, and everybody within very short succession pushes their Excel models to the point to where they're unruly, and more importantly, they just simply get orphaned over time. So we'll transition now actually into business IQ, and again really look how it's architected, look at all the various different modules and how these modules really interact with each other. And then as this series goes on, we're going to do a lot of, I guess, contrasting on how the not only how the tool is technically used, but how do you actually leverage this within a cohesive methodology to where you're performing root analysis in a tactical manner, right, on the left, and how do we graduate that into an enriched effort, right, that takes less time as we start reproducing like tasks, eventually into a strategic footing, right, all the way to the very executive. And when you achieve that bottom up methodology that we call performance track, what you've actually done is you've created a cohesive, traceable pathway to where when an executive makes a decision, that decision can be fully defended all the way down to the lowest levels of granularity through all of the various processes. So with that, let's go ahead and we'll break here and regroup on Business IQ.